Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Hot Mess Cosmic Express. I am certified moonologer and professional tarot reader Darcy Britt, and I am here with our resident astrologer Tracy Gardner. And today we are going to do a rundown of the cosmic events of the first week of January. So, like January 1st through January 7th of 2026. We're going to talk about retrogrades. We are going to talk about some planetary movements because we've got a few guys that are shifting around that first week that you need to know about. And we're going to dive into the full moon in Cancer. So, just a real quick note though, if you guys really like these videos and you want to see more of them, make sure that you like and subscribe to our show. That way you'll get an email every time that a new video comes out, and we would really love your support. So Tracy, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm not too bad. We made it through the holidays in one piece. Thank goodness, because it was a little bit touch and go there for a second. I'm not gonna lie.
I am ready for 2026. I'm ready for to get stuff started.
To get stuff started. So is 2026 going to be like a big, like, get stuff started kind of year for you? Yeah.
There's just a lot of movements. Like you were saying, a lot of the planets are moving. In numerology, it is a 1 year. And so that's new starts, new beginnings. So it just feels like a great time to start fresh.
That's awesome. All right. Well, and I think before we recorded this, we've kind of done our homework to see all of the astrology for 2026. And January seems to be quite the active month, which is why we decided to just kind of break this down and do it week by week. Hopefully, you guys all like that format. So, let's go ahead and kind of kick things off. And now we're doing something really fun with this, you guys. I'm just going to share. So Tracy and I are totally hot messes, right? That's why it's the Hot Mess Cosmic Express. But we decided that because we are not experts on any of this stuff by any means, and we're still learning about the planets and different things. Here's what we decided to do. So for the first 6 months of 2026, I am going to take and I'm going to be responsible for, oh dear Lord, help us all, for Mercury, which is the planet of your mind and thinking and communication. This is going to be so nuts. So I'm responsible for Mercury. I'm responsible for Mars, the planet on how you get things done. And then I'm also responsible for, hang on, let me get my sheet. I'm also responsible for Uranus, which is the planet on how we. Yeah, we decided that it would just be easier right now if I said it rather than Tracy said it, because she's okay with it, but it's kind of a struggle and we don't need that right now. So I'm going to take Uranus for the first half of 2026, and we're going to let Tracy figure that out. And and then and then I'm going to do the moon, right? Oh, and Jupiter, and I get to do Jupiter. I forgot. Sorry. So I'm doing Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and Uranus.
Yes. And then I will be doing Venus, the planet of love, value, and attraction. Saturn, which it rules over structure, lessons, and responsibility. Yeah. Saturn gets a bad rap. I like Saturn. Neptune, which is dreams, spirituality, and like brain fog. And Pluto, power, transformation, rebirth.
It's going to be so much fun. We're so excited. Oh, and I will be doing the moon. So sorry, but I'm going to hog all the moons because I love the moon. Not that Tracy does not love the moon, but it's my thing. That's like,
I'll do the sun. I'll do when the sun moves into another.
There you go. See, you can do that. That sounds perfect. So, all right, well, let's kick this off, and hopefully we can get through some of this. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about the start of it, and that's only because the two of the planets that I'm responsible for at the beginning of the year, which are Jupiter and Uranus. Those two big outer planets are in retrograde as we enter January of 2026.
Hey, Darcy, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
I wanted to read that little bit before we got into 2026.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I was trying to get your attention before. Just I every year I get this book called the Daily Planetary Guide. If you
Oh, yeah.
really are
I've seen that before.
interested,
Yeah.
if you really want to learn about the planets, the transits, this planner is awesome. I had it last year and I actually brought this real fancy planner. It was like $50. And this is like 13 and it's so much better. I will just stick to these from now on.
Did you
But
get
it
it
has
on
all the
Amazon?
planets, the signs. It has a whole so much information in here, but it also has like the weekly forecasts. And I just thought this little paragraph just summed up the overview of 2026 so great. I wanted to read it real
Okay, all
quick.
right, let's hear it. So
All right,
this is gonna sum up 2026. Okay.
2026. Yes,
All right, let's
I'm
hear it.
just.
Let's hear what you
It's a
got.
couple pages, but I'm just going to do the first paragraph.
Okay.
It is said that in history, it is said that history is comprised of long periods of waiting where nothing much happens, punctuated by relatively brief errors where the course of humankind is changed forever. The year 2026 marks the start of such a dramatic and exciting time when a series of planetary shifts, aspects, and returns promise the dawn of a new age with an increased sense of vigor, where people will fight to create an ethically and economically just society. I thought that like kind of like summed it up perfectly because as we go on in the year and you see all these planets move, that's exactly it's like the universe is telling us it's time for a change and all of
Yeah.
these planets are moving.
Well, Pluto moved into Aquarius, and that's all about transformation. And Aquarius is all about, on a bigger global they're the humanitarian of the zodiac. So that just is a precursor. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Very, very interesting. So might have to jot that down in the journal to
Yes,
see if that ends up how what that ends up kind of being, if we can do a reflection back on 2026 when we're done with it, right? See what
right.
happens. See what
Well, and
happens.
there's so many planets that move into Aries in the next couple of months, which is the start of the zodiac. So that's the beginning. There's
Yep,
all these
that's a good
different
point.
signs in the universe that the universe is telling us things are going to be different. It's shifting. Everything is moving.
And
We're never going back to the way it was. Everything is going to be new.
well, and I think that's important because I know that there are other people out there who have felt the shift happening or coming, right? There's been an increase, whether it's been an increase in intuitive thoughts or whether it's been an increase in dreams or just feeling like you're ramping up for something. I think that just as a collective, it's just been the vibe for a minute. So it's really exciting as we jump here into 2026 to see what all happens. So
Let's get to it.
all right, let's get to it. So because we've broken these out into different planets and we're responsible for it, I'm so excited. And again, we're just focused on that first week. But I get to talk about Mercury, and Mercury is going to be moving into the sign of Capricorn. And that will be happening on January the 1st. So that's New Year's Day at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon for you guys out there that are tracking stuff down to the minute. Of course, always check your local listings. But when we talk about Mercury going into Capricorn, we talk about Mercury as the planet of communication and the planet of thoughts. And Capricorn is disciplined and very hardworking and very, very structured. So you can really expect us to kick that year off with like slow and steady and very calculated thinking. So, if you are a journaler, make sure you might want to write down some thought provoking journal questions. It's a really good time to do some really focused and concentrated thinking. But it's also, if you've got like detailed conversations where you have to focus, or you've got a presentation to do for work, that's a really, really good time to do some of that stuff, and you really get some good shit done. So,
Also on the first, you have Mercury square Neptune.
oh, so it's, so
So,
it's, okay.
so that also means just staying grounded to avoid confusion and misunderstanding. So,
Okay.
making sure that you're thinking before you speak, or before you say something, you might just hesitate. Make sure, because there can be some
Right,
confusion
because
with Neptune.
Uranus is the planet, kind of the great awakener, so to speak, and how we approach or how we do certain things.
It's Neptune.
So, that is Neptune. You're right. You're right. We were talking about Uranus. Sorry, it's the
It's
planet. Oh
okay.
my God. I can't keep it straight. It's late and it's been one heck of a day. So yeah, sorry. You're right. You're right. Uranus.
No
Sorry.
problem.
Yeah. And I've got that planet this year. We're screwed, folks. I don't. If this is any kind of precursor to what I do have my little. It's funny. I will share this little trick, but I have this. I got a ring. Oh, fudge sickles. I got it's like they're post-it notes, and then I
Yeah.
put a ring through it. And so I do have a Uranus card in here. So when we get around to talking to that, I might have to whip out my Uranus card from my magic bag of tricks up here in my corner. So we'll see how this goes, Tracy. We'll see. Y'all are in for a real good treat. So,
By the
okay,
time
so
we're done with it, because we're doing it for 6 months, the planets. So by the time we're done and we flip flop, we'll
I
be
won't
experts at them.
I won't need my card anymore, and you will know how to say Uranus without
Uranus.
without second guessing yourself when you say it, because you'll be.
And maybe I won't have to sit there and go Uranus. I can just say it.
Well, I just did. Did you hear? I was like, Uranus. I did. It took me a second. I did it. See, I did it. Dang you, planet. Dang you, Uranus.
No,
What an
it's
ass.
the end of school system that taught us it was not that way, and so I have all these years of saying it the other way.
Thank you. Telling you what, there is a Steve Harvey clip on Family Feud. On If you look up the right way to say it, it is hilarious because he talks about it being. You just got to watch it for yourself. So, all right, let's keep rolling here. So, January the 1st, is there anything else? You said Mercury's square
Yeah,
Uranus.
Mercury square Neptune, and then like you said, Mercury enters Cancer. So then we're on to January 2nd.
Oh, you mean there's Capricorn, right?
I said Uranus, didn't I?
Well, hang on. You said
It's
it
out in my
enters.
head now.
You said Mercury enters Cancer, but Mercury. Okay, hang on.
It's Capricorn. Okay.
Hang on. Let's rewind. Okay, so on January the 1st, Mercury's going to enter Capricorn, right?
Yes.
Okay, Capricorn. So thoughts and things, and then Mercury is
Mercury
also
is
square
square Neptune.
Neptune.
Yes.
Got it.
So Neptune is the planet that we talked about being dreamy,
Yep.
spirituality, brain fog, and then Mercury, like you said, is communication. So it's just stay grounded, think before you speak, making sure that you avoid confusion and misunderstandings.
Okay. I can do that for January the 1st. That's great because sometimes there's alcohol involved on New Year's Eve, which is December 31st. So just make sure
Oh,
after the ball drops, y'all, that remember it is the next day. So,
and
all right.
actually, that's a good point because Mercury also rules travel. So
Oh,
be careful
good
when, like,
point.
if you drive on the first, be careful.
Just watch out for other
Mhm.
drivers. Make sure you have a designated driver or that you are the designated driver, and then be mindful. You do a defensive driving, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, what else do we have?
January 2nd, Chiron stations direct in Aries. I'm so happy about that one.
So that means so Chiron, so basically been in retrograde, so now she's turned direct, and so she's in air, so it's been backwards, now we're moving forwards, right?
Right. I have Chiron in Aries, so this whole retrograde in Aries, it's been going on since like July 30th of 2025. Just been a lot of shadow work, working through old things. So now it's direct, so hopefully can move past those things. You can get going again.
Gotcha. Use the lessons and things that you've learned to kind of get moving, right? That's the
Exactly,
important part.
exactly. That's a great point. Great
That's the
point.
important part. Yeah.
And then
So all
actually,
right,
the last thing is your specialty.
that is my specialty. That is the full moon in Cancer, and that is the first full moon of 2026. Whoop 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 whoop.
Ooh, ooh.
Yes, I know, and it's going to hit again. Check your local listings, but about 5:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's a Saturday morning. Now, I am not necessarily getting up at 5:02 in January to do all of my work, but you can if you definitely want to. But just to talk about it a little bit, so it is known as the wolf moon. Wolves are howling. It's cold outside. And it also, what else did I write here in my notes? Oh, no, just full moon in Cancer, and it's the wolf moon. That's all I wrote for it. That's it. That's all I wrote. But I want to talk a little bit about how to make the most out of the full moon in Cancer, because full moons are all about releasing, they're all about climaxes, they're all about conclusions, and things ending or kind of taking care of things, or things getting to a point where you know that you have to deal with them. And Cancer energy is a whole bunch of things, including like being a nurturer. So, it's very nurturing, very into family, very into the home. It's also like the feeder or the foodie of the zodiac. So it's always like the Italian grandma that you go over there and she's like, eat, eat, you never eat, you never eat. Like that's very like Cancer energy. Okay. She's very nurturing, but when you think about it, not like a crazy Italian grandmother, but you think about Cancer with the symbol that it is, which is a crab. Okay. And crab lives on the beach. And if you've ever been to a beach, those little sand crabs, they pop, they kind of pop up. They kind of take a look at what stuff that's going around, look at stuff, then they come out. Well, there's either, little Susie from down the street's got a net trying to catch it, or there's a wave that's trying to come up and get it. And so that crab goes right back down in there. So Cancer energy, because it can sometimes be inundated with bigger things than it, tends to be a little insecure. And so when we get closer, and as you start to kind of feel the energy of that full moon approaching, it's really a good time to take a minute and reflect a little bit on where are you emotionally insecure? Where could I maybe stand up for myself a little bit more? Where am I afraid, to really just go for it, right? Wherever that little Mr. Crab wants to go, I don't know. But he's obviously, not, he's going to, just duck right back down in there. So one of the things I like to do when we talk about emotional insecurities, because of that in and that back in and that back out, again, it's all about like setting healthy boundaries, and not, it's in every aspect of your life. And it really boils down to stop saying yes to shit you hate doing. Like 100%, just stop saying yes when your calendar is full, when you don't have the time to do things, when you just don't have the energy, when you just are doing it because for all the wrong reasons. It's a great full moon to sit down, and I'm going to give you some pointers a little bit on how to do that. But really, we talk about, so we reflect, right? So where am I emotional? Where am I a little bit insecure, right? Or well, where do I have some boundary issues, right? Where do I have some boundaries that maybe I've either not set, or if I've set them, I've totally let them slide and just let people think that that's the way, that that's okay to treat me that way.
And if this is where they can pull out their birth chart, look to see where cancer is, and that might give you another area of where you might need to set some of those boundaries. Is that correct?
That's correct, because what's going to happen is, so at the time of the full moon, it's kind of like a little cosmic tug of war, right? So we've got the sun is in the sign of, this time around it's in the sign of Capricorn, and the sun, because it's that big giant ball of fire in the sky, it likes to be the showboat of everything. And the sun represents our ego. It represents our what kind of that the life, basically. It represents life. And so the sun is going to be in Capricorn, and where the sun is at in Capricorn, that's really where life is going to be focused as we approach this Cancer full moon. So focused on that Capricorn energy, focused on discipline, focused on hard work, focused on, career goals, very, very, digging in and not a whole lot of fun. That's what life is going to be pushing you to do. I really hate to say it, that life just may effing suck as we get into that Cancer moon. But on the other flip side of it, that where the moon is, sign of Cancer, that shows kind of what you're going to maybe expect to be dealing with on the inside or internally. So that's kind of like what, and because the sun is so big and bright, it just shoves our emotions all the way out of the way. And so right then and there, the full moon in and of itself is a boundary breaker, right? We kind of, and because you think about it, how often does life take precedent over what we really need? All the time, right? It does.
Right.
We fall into roles and responsibilities, both two very big Capricorn words, where we think that people expect these things from us. It happens a lot of times with new moms because they feel this pressure to have this, to be this parent, to be this mom, and they kind of lose sight of who they were before they were a mom, right? Because they really fall into that role or that responsibility. Totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's a very Capricorn energy. So I forget where I was at. Where was I at? Fudge. I flashed to the baby. I totally lost where I was at.
You're right. I understand that.
Oh my
I
gosh.
was thinking about how like it just amazed me how because I never really thought about it this way, and I don't know why because it makes perfect sense. But like, you know, we're in Capricorn season. That where Capricorn season is where the year changes. So New Year. A lot of people are focused on New Year's resolutions,
Yep.
their goals, and
Yep.
that's very Capricorn is setting those goals. What do you want to achieve in the next year? That is very Capricorn. But then on the inside, there's the insecurity of can I do it or is the goal too big or it's funny how it all makes sense.
Well, and it could also be, another can is like family issues. So it could also be that maybe your family, maybe there's things that are going on with your family, and those are on your mind right now.
You
But
just spent 2 weeks with them. I mean, you
yeah,
got Christmas
no
and New
shit.
Year.
That's a really good point, right? That's a really good point. So maybe you're in therapy and you're talking about your family a lot. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if you've been with them, just yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense.
So,
I'm
what
totally.
are some
Yeah.
things
So
either?
so we're going to talk about how to stop saying yes to shit you hate. So
There you go.
um, it's kind of a time management, but it's not time management, right? But the thing that it really comes down to is there could be a dozen different reasons why we all do this and we all say yes to things that we hate. We all do it, right? Whether it's you tell a friend or a coworker that you'll help them this weekend when you've got something going on, or you've overcommitted and you decide you want to volunteer for the PTO. We've all just kind of gotten caught up in the moment, so to speak, and kind of said yes, and then we really, really don't want to do this. And what's really important and the reason I want to talk about this is because number one, as women and being in corporate America and being out there in the world, we really do have to make sure that we don't overspread ourselves, right? If you think about it just by nature, we're we're a mom, we're a wife, we're a friend, we're our son, we're all these other things. So why wouldn't we just like overextend ourselves? We're just used to kind of just doing it, right? So it gets really hard to where we get into some spots sometimes where we feel like if we say no, that there's going to be certain repercussions or certain things. And I'm not saying that there aren't, but I'm saying that that kind of gives away your power a little bit. So there are just a few things that I wanted to kind of talk about today, about saying the word no, because in honesty, it's like I said, the word no, we were kind of not really necessarily taught that word so much. You just said, okay, I was raised in like a yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes or no kind of thing, right? You just said, okay, you just did what you were told to do. You didn't say no very often. So
Very
then we
correct.
grow up, and then other people are telling us that they want to put stuff on our calendar or they need our help with this, and maybe they're guilt tripping you. There could be all kinds of, and guess what? We still feel like we just don't want to say no. So it's really, really important that you really get comfortable in saying it. And on top of that, that you understand that there is no law anywhere that says that you are required to explain why you are saying no. Because
No is a
sometimes
complete
that's where we get
sentence.
ourselves in a wee bit of a pickle because we either make a little bitty white lie up or we can't come up with something that's going on or we can't think of a good excuse. You do not need to have a reason and you don't have to really give anything on that. But I've got some tips on some stuff to say here, so I better get talking here. Now, I will say though, and I'm just looking at my notes here, if you do decide to tell anyone, hey, I can't make it to this, that, or the other, and you explain why, I just want to give a word to the wise. We're coming up on a full moon. Do not get in a tiffy if people don't care why or if they just seem really kind of like nonchalant. Sometimes we're doing something different and we want people to think it's a big deal, right? Like, oh, I can't come
Right.
to that because I'm going to the Met Gala this weekend or something. Okay, if nobody really reacts in a big way, it's okay to not get your feelings hurt. It's the full moon. People are busy and doing other things, right? So just kind of keep that in mind if you do decide to divulge why you want to kind of decline things. But, it's really simple. Here's another point. Even in Microsoft Outlook at work, if I want to go in and decline a meeting invite, it automatically pops up with send an email to the organizer. I don't want to send an email to the organizer. I don't need to tell them anything other than, no, I don't need to tell them I have a scheduling conflict or I have a dentist appointment. I just need to say no. And just the reason I say that is we spend a lot of time on all of the other whys when the why is this is shit that I hate, right? So, and because you can't say that, you just say no. It's kind of like because I said so. So, so one thing I want you to think about is we're going to talk about emotional boundaries really quickly. And so I want to help. So I want everybody to, and you can do this if you're driving or do this if you're at home, but I'd like for you to try to make a list of like, what are your most important boundaries? Like, what are the ones that, maybe you have got to have a cup of coffee in the morning or there's a felony, somebody's going to die. Maybe it's that you're driving into work every morning and or on your way home or whatever, and you use that commute time to like either prepare for the day or to decompress for the day, right? So just kind of think about some boundaries that help you with your sanity. Okay, maybe it's just the fact that you can lock the door and eat a bag of Twizzlers while your 3-year-old sticks their finger underneath the door. You don't care. What are your boundaries, right? I'm not letting the kid in until I have my Twizzlers, right? Write down what like your most important sanity boundaries are. And that's like the number one thing. And then what I want you to do when you think about those is I want you to also figure out the who or the what might cross that line. So is your husband going to call you on your commute and ask you to stop somewhere and totally ruin your decompression time? That happens to me a lot. I'm saying that because he doesn't listen to the podcast. So this is a test. We'll see if he's really listening. I really laid that in there. I did. I'm like, we'll see if he hears what he's doing. It's okay. I love him. I love him. But stop calling me and asking me to pick up milk while I'm effing driving home in traffic, you know that that's my time. Anyway, it's okay. Okay. So, or maybe it's, hey, I know that I'm going to go in there and I'm only going to get 30 seconds in the bathroom by myself, and my toddler's going to kind of, knock my, put his finger underneath there, or the cat, whatever. So I want you to identify who or what situation you might think crossed that boundary first. And then I want you to take some solid time and think, okay, if I could plan right now, how would I stand up for myself? How would I, put the kids somewhere else? How would I, get a squirt gun and squirt the cat with the, squirt the cat's paws under the door so he leaves me alone? What am I going to do now to protect my boundary? Now, keeping in mind, like I said before, like with the Twizzlers in the bathroom thing. Okay, if I have 30 seconds in the bathroom, right, I'm just protecting the 30 seconds in the bathroom. I'm not like locking myself in there for hours until I feel emotionally sane and keeping my toddler on the other side of the door, right? So be very specific on what it is that gives you your emotional sanity, and then plan on who or what's going to get in the way first, because something does. Otherwise, we'd all be a whole lot more sane. And then what are you going to do to basically squish that and protect your boundary? My husband is an example. I don't answer the phone and then act like I'm having Bluetooth problems. Whoops. Sorry. I mean, you've got to, and it is what it is. It's what I have to do to protect my boundary, because he is not going to listen. And so I do that. So you have to come up with just something to protect your boundary. And the reason I say that is because just by going through that little bitty exercise, that helps you to plan ahead and to keep your cool when that situation arises. So just that simple visualization exercise of, well, this is what I'll do. If it happens and that person crosses that boundary, you're more apt to stick to it because you planned ahead. And then you'll realize that most people probably don't care about it as much as what you do. And that by you protecting your boundary, the world is most likely not going to end. And guess what? You feel a little bit better because you just protected your boundary, right? Because think about it, there's a lot of places where boundaries are crossed sometimes, and even just one time, that moves everything up a notch, right? All of a sudden, guess what? I protected that boundary. So that's the first thing that I would suggest, because that's going to help you avoid, doing shit that you hate to do. And the other thing I want you to do, this is just a very small exercise, but to think about an event or something, an invitation, something that either you're kind of like waffling on RSVPing to, you're like, oh, I didn't really answer Trish yet on that. Or maybe it's something that you already said yes to, but the whole point is, this is shit you really don't want to do. Like you said it either out of obligation, maybe you said it on the fly and forgot to check your calendar. And guess what? Now you're double booked. And that's why this is shit you don't want to do, right? It's not always negative. Maybe it's a legit reason. Maybe you've got gallbladder surgery scheduled that day. I don't know.
Or
But
maybe you're like me. You wanted to go at the time, but now it's like, no, nope, this ain't going to work.
right,
You
exactly.
were around people, so it sounded exciting, but you don't really want to take that trip, or you don't really want to
Exactly.
go.
It's like I'm really, really just not into that. So, and there's 1,000 different things. So what I'd like for you to just really quickly, and again, you don't have to do this right now, especially not if you're driving. But when you get a chance, just write it down, whatever it is, right? Because again, if you notice, I'm telling you to write it down. We're releasing it from your mind onto paper. So I'm giving you a gift because to take it out of your mind a little bit. That's part of what we're trying to do here. But I want you to write it down, and then I want you to take the time to look at it. And I want in your mind, just think, okay, if I say yes, how am I going to feel? And I want you to write down and pay attention to what you feel when you say that. If you think, okay, I'm going to, you know what, I'm just going to RSVP yes. What's your first thought? If your first thought is like, how am I going to get out of this? Or I've got to fake strep throat, or I've got to bite a bullet and eat some bad gas station sushi. When you have those thoughts immediately, that is your intuition telling you that that's one of those situations where it's crossing a boundary in some way, shape, or form. Even if that boundary is just infringing on your personal time, the time for you to get your projects done, I don't know, right? But it's your kind of personal time. So I want you to pay attention to how your body feels when you really do that. And then the other piece of that is to just take a second and think about, if I were to say no, and again, we're using that word because we don't say it very often, but if I were to say the word no, what kind of a reaction do I think I would get? Do I think I would get? Is somebody going to push back? Is somebody going to say something snooty? Is maybe nobody going to say a damn thing to you about it if you say no? I want you to write that down. Who's going to either push back or give you a hard time if you say no? Okay. Then what I'd like for you to do, and I have this all handwritten here because I'm totally old school and I don't teleprompt. So I have handwritten all these mofo and notes like handwritten all these pages. They are typed up, so they will be in the show notes. But so we're thinking about like who's going to get a little peeved off as we do this. So I want you to, the next thing, and this is the last piece of it, is I want you to think, opposite of our first question. If I said no, this is a two-parter. If I said no, one, how's it going to feel? Pay attention, write it down. Two, what would I do instead? That is a big kicker to it. Because if you can look at it, and then you look at it and you say, okay, if I was going to do this instead, maybe you're going to take a nap. Maybe you're going to clean a house. Maybe you're going to pluck your eyebrows, pick your face. I don't know, do your toe. I really don't know. But I want you to write, maybe you're going to work on a project. Write down what you're going to do instead, right? Because we're saying no because we're protecting a boundary. So let's define a little bit of what that boundary might be. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do a project. Okay, that tells me that the boundary was that I have to get this project done and I'm not going to let it be crossed, okay? So look at what that one thing is that you would do if you said no. And I want you to think about and write down, how does that feel? If you could take a nap, how does that feel? If you could get that last piece of that project done, if you just tell Karen in accounting that you can't go to her meeting, how does that feel to leave the day maybe accomplished? Maybe like, holy shit, I actually finally finished something. Now, if the answer to the no, what I felt when I said no, feels better to the answer that you felt when I said yes, you kind of have your answer there, right? On what we need to do. We need to take care of this, right? That's, if you're not getting the intuitive stuff, you're kind of at the point where that, if you're waffling on it, you have your answer. You need to say no. There's no reason for you to prolong this. You're just going to either cancel it 5 minutes before it starts because you put it off so long, and you'll just be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I have to run to another meeting, or hey, I just got called into an exec meeting, so I got to cancel this really quick. Get back to you tomorrow. Don't do it because you're wasting all your energy until you get up to that point on saying no. You the whole time, you've already made your mind up. You're going to say no. You've already done it. So just shit or get off the pot. Just do it. Say no. And then that way, guess what? All of that energy that you've just spent saying a very bad word, if we're manifesting, which is no, 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 no. We don't want to say it a whole lot in our mind. We want to say it out loud, verbally, get it over with, and be done. I don't want to keep going, shit, I got to go tell, Craig in accounting that no, I can't go to that meeting. For the next 3 days, I'm writing that on my to-do list. That's negative energy. If I'm trying to attract like energy, guess what? I'm doing the opposite of what I'm trying to do. So saying yes to shit you hate and then waffling on it like that, or waffling on it, is just wrecking your manifesting efforts. So you've really got to take the time to learn how to say some really good ways of saying no. Do you know some good ways to be like no rather than like use your fingers?
That's my favorite way to say no.
That is, I've even taught one of my daughters, there's several family pictures, and I'm just as bad, but you'll just see one of us kind of
doing it.
Yeah. I almost got in trouble.
This is my favorite.
I didn't get in trouble, but there was a thing at work the other day, and I was doing it, and it was on Teams, and I'm working, and I'm doing this, and there had been a small altercation with a certain attendee on the call, and I may or may not have pushed my glasses up and sat like this for like long enough that I figured I was going to get an email from HR. I mean, I had my finger, I was just like, I mean, it was bad. There's like 40 people on this call, and I just kept going like this, or I would just sit back in my chair because I've got a wingback chair and just kind of sit like this. I mean, it was bad. It was really bad. So anyway, so there's some different ways to do it. So I'm just going to give you some examples. ChatGPT, guys, is amazing. Simply typing in a very simple prompt that, hey, I need a little bit of help protecting my emotional boundaries and some nice ways to decline invitations to things while protecting my emotional needs, right? And not really defending an answer. But if you have to give an answer, some of the things you can say are like, hey, you know what, that doesn't work for me. You can say, I'm going to pass. One of my favorite ones is, you know what, I'm trying to quit. I don't care what it is. If it's a meeting, whatever, I'm like, you know what, Kevin, I'm trying to quit. I'm going to pass on that. Because you kind of have a little bit of humor, and then but I'm not really explaining a real reason why, but I'm just kind of dropping that. And if you feel like you have to give more of an answer in that little box or in a text message to Aunt Jane on why you can't come to Christmas, it can be simple things like, hey, I've overcommitted, or honestly, you could be super honest, be like, hey, I'm protecting my personal space right now. The holidays really fried my brain, and I'm saying no. You can be very, very direct and very, very concrete when you say it, because what you want to do is make sure you just kind of end it with that finality. So if you can get away with saying no and not giving an explanation, that's great. If not, try to keep it as short and sweet as possible. Just, and basically you're defending your emotions, because when you go back and when you say the word it internalizes things, right? So if I say, hey, I had a really rough holiday. My mom passed away, and I can't commit to that right now. Do you think anybody's going to give me it? That's not a lie, right? But if I say my emotional need first and then say no, people have a less of a chance of coming back at you and questioning that, right? So you're being honest about why you're doing it, if you can, right? There's some things that we obviously don't want to do in certain situations, but that's a really good suggestion that I have there. Again, it's just protecting. You're just stressing that you're protecting yourself, and people really can't question much of that. If I say anything else, it's number one, it's not the truth. I'm doing it because there's an emotional boundary here. There's something I feel emotionally to keep my emotional sanity. There's something else that I can get done in this time rather than this. So no, I mean, it's hard to say. It is hard to do, especially if you're someone who is a people pleaser. But I can assure you, nobody's going to think you're a bitch. They might, but it doesn't really matter, because guess what? At the end of the day, I've got really nicely pedicured toes and my calendar's cleared off, and I feel like a badass because I said no. That's great, right? I feel good. And that's really what a lot of this, really boils down to. So that's kind of my suggestion. So on how to work with that full moon in Cancer, and then just basically stop saying yes to shit that you hate.
Those were good tips.
Thanks.
I think we all have something that we should stop saying yes to because we don't want to do it.
Or it's something that you already said yes to, but you're going to say no to. Stop wasting you are wasting your energy. It's like the Julie on your shoulder. Every time that thought of, I got to email that, every time it pops up, guess what? There goes another, there goes another one. It's negativity. I guess I should have done this way. I should have been like attracting. It's another one and another one. You've got to do it. As my dad would say, shit or get off the pot. And and once you do it, and you learn how to do it with finesse, I'm not telling people, with my fingers, I'm being like, hey, this is either no, that's not going to work for me, and not answer anything, or it's just, this is why. And it's an honest answer, and it works. And you end up leaving the end of the day feeling like, oh my gosh, I survived the full moon. It's good advice to use anytime, right? Time management, that's a really big thing, not letting your calendar get overworked, and like protecting your time. And I mean personal time as well. Time to do your toes, time to do your face, time to shave, you're going to wax your face. I don't know, dye your eyebrows. you've got to protect that time. So take time for you as we come up to this full moon, and it's okay to make a commitment that you're going to do more of that as we go into 2026. It's a new beginning, right? It can be a totally new you. It can be somebody that maybe stands up for themselves a little bit more in a very, very nice way, but feels like I'm not a doormat and I'm getting stuff done in my life because I have time for me. That's important.
Exactly. No, that is
Yeah.
very good advice.
Yeah. So, and that's really, honestly, I appreciate I read through my notes here. Yeah. I just had all my notes. I have my chat GPT prompts. So another one, one thing I will say is sometimes you are going to get backed into a corner. There's going to be somebody that keeps pressing you for an answer or just comes in and goes, hey, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. My advice on that, Tracy, is to do your best to buy yourself some time. We answer really crappily and may already be in this situation because we answered something on the spot. So even if you have to excuse yourself to go to the bathroom, pretend like you're going to pee your pants, I don't know what, but buy yourself some time. And it can be as simple as, hey, I don't want to answer you on the spot. Let me get back to you. Or, you know what? I'm going to have to go double check my calendar and hit you back later. Now you have to get back with them, but that at least buys you some time. Now, again, that time, you already know you're going to say no, or you would have said yes right away. You would have said it right away. So you've bought yourself time, but that's still no time. So when you think about being like a tower and you want to be positive energy, every time you think about no, and I got to tell them no, a little negative ion gets up on there. We don't want a lot on there. So we need to try to do that. I'm just as bad. I am just as bad. But I feel really good about myself when I actually cancel something in advance. Isn't that bad?
No, because in life there's a lot of things going on, so you kind of
Well, and here's the
you give
thing is
yourself.
I've thought about it 18 times in the last 2 weeks. And if I just would have done it then, I would not have wasted all. And now I didn't do it. So now it's regret. That's just great to have. So you see how it waffles. So just
Yes.
take the advice from someone who is a hot mess. Stop saying yes to shit you hate. Just stop. Just stop and do it as soon as you can. You will be much, much happier. What was I going to say? Yeah, I need some time to think about it. Yeah. Oh, and then if people really give you a hard time, you cannot let them guilt you into it. You really have to stand your ground. This is the hardest part. And you can say, and I would ask ChatGPT, but you can simply say, listen, I understand your concern, or I understand that this is really important to you, but I'm still going to have to say no. You don't have to say anything more than that. You already told them why before. I'm still going to have to say no. And the whole reason I'm telling all of this is because if you can plan ahead now based on, even if while I've been talking my head off, you've just had a few thoughts on what you would say if that happened, good job. Because you're that much closer to defending your boundaries. And that's really where we start to build our emotional insecurity up. When we start to realize that Susie doesn't have a net, she's got a pickle, and we love pickles, right? But when we're so close to just say yes, 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 then it's just too much. So let's raise our emotional insecurity a little bit and get rid of all that no energy. And that's how we work with that full moon to manifest things. Get rid of it and then make a commitment to do it a better way.
Plus, I mean, the people that are going to push back are usually the ones who have pushed before and you
True.
gave in. And that's why they're going to do it because you gave in last time.
Yep.
So the quicker you can, you know, make that boundary and stick to it, they'll stop pushing
That's
back.
why at the very, very beginning, I'm checking my notes. At the very beginning, I said I wanted you to make a list of your most important boundaries and who might cross that line and how will you respond to it emotionally instead of rushing to it. That's exactly why. Perfect. Yes. Because then you can formulate the response. You know, if somebody deals, accepts things better with directness versus being around the bush. If you know it's going to be Aunt Karen, you know how to talk to her. how you going to say it when she gets you? If you already know, then I'm telling you what, you are 90% farther along than so many people because you are all of a sudden taking control of your life. And I'm telling you what, it's life changing. That's all I have.
I think that's a great place to wrap it up.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody again for listening and watching. If you would, make sure that you hit the subscribe and the like button. Tracy and I would really, really appreciate it if you would help support us as we try to just help everybody. We call it the Hot Mess Cosmic Express because we are all on this ride together, and we might as well help you learn what we've learned along the way.
Talk to you guys later.